The scorching sun beat down on the rocky terrain of Epsilon Crimson, casting long shadows across a landscape that had become nothing more than a graveyard of metal and broken dreams. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood alone, her body a testament to the brutal battle that had just unfolded. Around her, the remnants of her squad lay scattered like forgotten chess pieces, some still, some broken, all silent. Her tactical gear was torn and bloodied, telling a story of survival that words could never fully capture. The left sleeve hung, in tatters, revealing a deep gash that pulsed with pain with every breath she took. Elena's right hand clutched her plasma rifle, her final companion in this unforgiving battlefield. The British and English Marines had been her brothers and sisters, in arms. Now they were memories. Elena remembered their faces, their laughter, their hopes. She remembered Private James Miller's dream of returning home to his newborn daughter. She remembered Sergeant William Thompson's stories about his small cottage in the countryside, all gone in a matter of moments. In the distance, the alien Vex Marines approached. Their metallic forms moved with a precision that seemed almost mechanical, each step calculated, each movement deliberate. They expected surrender. They expected submission. But Elena Rodriguez was not built for surrender. Her training kicked. In years of military preparation, months of specialized combat training, and a lifetime of facing impossible challenges had prepared her for this moment. She checked her weapon. One plasma charge left. One final opportunity to make a difference. The aliens' communication systems buzzed with their strange, clicking language. They were discussing her, a lone human soldier surrounded, injured, seemingly defeated. But they didn't understand the first thing about human resilience. Elena's mind drifted momentarily to her family back on Earth. Her mother, a retired nurse who had taught her about strength. Her father, a construction worker who had shown her the meaning of hard work. They had raised her to never back down, to always fight, to always believe. Blood trickled down her forehead, mixing with the dust and grime of the battlefield. Her body was failing her, but her spirit remained unbroken. Each breath was a challenge, each movement a battle against her own limitations. The Vex Marines were getting closer. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy, ready to deliver the final blow. But Elena wasn't looking at their weapons. She was looking beyond them, into the horizon, into a future that she refused to let them destroy. Her communication device crackled, a faint signal, barely audible. Fragments of messages from other resistance fighters drifted through. They were still fighting, they were still hoping. And as long as hope existed, surrender was never an option. The first alien commander stepped forward. Its metallic form towered over her, casting a shadow that seemed to want to consume her entirely. A translator device on its chest began to speak, offering terms of surrender in a cold, calculated voice. Elena raised her plasma rifle, her eyes bloodshot but determined, locked onto the alien commander. No words were needed. Her stance spoke volumes. Her very existence was a statement of defiance. The battlefield grew silent. The wind seemed to hold its breath. In this moment, Elena Rodriguez was more than just a soldier. She was a symbol, a representation of an entire species that refused to be conquered. The Vex Marines hesitated. Something in her demeanor was different from any opponent they had encountered before. This wasn't just resistance. This was pure, unadulterated human spirit. As the first rays of the alien planet's setting sun painted the sky in shades of crimson and orange, Elena Rodriguez stood her ground. Injured, alone, but undefeated. The battle was far from over, and she was far from finished. The alien landscape trembled with an eerie silence. Captain Elena Rodriguez's body was a map of pain, each wound telling a story of survival. Her tactical uniform, once pristine and professional, now hung in bloodied tatters, revealing the extent of her injuries. The plasma burn across her torso throbbed with an intensity that would have broken a lesser warrior. Around her, the rocky terrain of Epsilon Crimson looked like a graveyard of broken machines and shattered hopes. The Vex Marines watched her with their cold mechanical eyes, trying to understand this human who refused to submit. They had conquered countless civilizations, crushed numerous resistance movements. But Elena was different. Her damaged communication device suddenly crackled to life. Fragments of messages from distant human resistance fighters drifted through the static. "Hold strong," one message whispered. "We're watching," another encouraged. Those words became her lifeline, her connection to something greater than her immediate struggle. The alien commander approached, its metallic body moving with calculated precision. The translation device on its chest began to speak, offering surrender terms in a voice devoid of emotion. Elena's response was a defiant glare that spoke more words than any language could translate. Her military training kicked in, a muscle memory developed through years of preparation. Despite the critical injuries that would have incapacitated any ordinary soldier, Elena maintained her combat stance. Her right hand, though trembling, kept a firm grip on her plasma rifle, her last weapon of hope. Memories flooded her mind. Her father's words echoed in her ears. Never show weakness, never give up. He had been a construction worker who understood struggle, who had taught her that true strength wasn't about avoiding pain, but about enduring it. The Vex Marines began to communicate among themselves, their clicking language betraying a hint of confusion. They had encountered resistance before, but never such pure, unbreakable determination. Elena wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for every human who had ever been told to surrender. Her breathing was labored, each inhale a battle against the pain. Broken ribs pressed against her lungs, making every movement a calculated effort. But she remained standing. More importantly, she remained defiant. The alien landscape seemed to hold its breath. The distant mountains watched silently, witnesses to this extraordinary moment of human resilience. Elena knew her chances of survival were minimal. Her internal systems were failing. Her body was shutting down, but her spirit remained unbroken. Suddenly, her damaged communication device projected a holographic image. Fragments of human resistance movements from across different planetary colonies. Ordinary people standing against impossible odds. Farmers, workers, children, elderly, all united in a single moment of collective resistance. The Vex Marines hesitated. This wasn't just a soldier they were facing. This was a symbol of an entire species' unwillingness to be conquered. Elena's mind drifted to her squad, to James Miller, who dreamed of seeing his newborn daughter, to William Thompson, who spoke of his small cottage back home. They were gone, but their spirit lived on through her. Each moment of resistance was a tribute to their memory. Her vision began to blur, but her resolve remained crystal clear. The alien commander took another step forward, its weapons charged and ready. But something in Elena's eyes made it pause. This wasn't fear. This wasn't desperation. This was pure, unfiltered human spirit. The battlefield grew tense. Minutes felt like hours. Elena Rodriguez stood as a living testament to human resilience, injured, alone, but absolutely undefeated. Her story was no longer just about survival. It had become a message of hope, a message that would echo across the universe, a message that said, humanity will never surrender. The alien landscape seemed to hold its breath as Elena Rodriguez began, her most powerful weapon, her voice. Wounded and bleeding, she started broadcasting a message that would cut deeper than any weapon the Vex Marines possessed. In her native language, she spoke of generations of human struggle. Her words were not just sounds, but weapons of psychological resistance. She talked about her grandmother, who survived a devastating war, her grandfather, who rebuilt their family from nothing, her parents who taught her that true strength comes from within. The Vex Marines' translation devices struggled to capture the depth of her communication. Her voice carried more than words. It carried emotion, history, and an unbreakable spirit that their computational systems could never fully understand. Each sentence was a battle cry. She spoke of human resilience, of communities that had survived impossible conditions, the stories of ordinary people becoming extraordinary in moments of crisis, tales of farmers who fought through droughts, workers who rebuilt cities after natural disasters, children who found hope in the darkest moments. Her damaged communication system projected holographic images alongside her narrative. Scenes of human resistance flickered around her, a patchwork of humanity's most powerful moments. A farmer protecting his land, a mother defending her children, workers rebuilding after destruction. Each image was a testament to human spirit. The alien commander watched, increasingly confused. Their strategic databases had no protocols for this type of resistance. They understood physical combat, technological superiority, but this emotional warfare was completely alien to them. Elena's body was failing, but her spirit was expanding. Each word became a weapon more powerful than any plasma rifle. She spoke about love, about connection, about the invisible threads that bind human beings together. Her narrative transformed her from a mere soldier into a living symbol of resistance. Her breath came in ragged gasps, but her voice remained strong. She talked about hope, not as a concept but as a living, breathing force. Hope that survived wars, poverty, natural disasters. Hope that existed in the smallest acts of human kindness. The Vex Marines began to experience something they had never felt before: uncertainty. Their computational systems struggled to process the emotional complexity of her communication. This wasn't just a soldier surrendering. This was an entire species declaring its right to exist. Images of human communities flashed around her. Diverse, complex, interconnected. Children playing in rebuilt cities. Workers supporting each other. Families finding strength in unity. Each image was a direct challenge to the aliens' understanding of survival. Her communication device began to pick up signals from other resistance fighters. Fragments of messages, words of support, collective determination. The holographic display showed a network of human resistance that extended far beyond this single battlefield. The alien commander took a step back. Something was happening that their tactical training had never prepared them for. This wasn't just a battle. This was a profound clash of understanding about what it means to be alive, to resist, to hope. Elena's voice began to break, but her spirit remained unshaken. She spoke about the human capacity to find light in darkness, to create beauty in destruction, to love despite pain. Her words became a bridge between two entirely different species of understanding. The battlefield grew silent. The rocky terrain of Epsilon Crimson seemed to listen. Wind carried her words like a prayer, like a promise. She was no longer just Captain Elena Rodriguez. She had become something more, a living testament to human resilience. Her final message was simple yet profound. Humanity would never surrender. Not today. Not ever. The Vex Marines stood motionless, their advanced technology suddenly feeling primitive against the raw emotional power of human spirit. Something fundamental had changed in that moment, a understanding that no weapon could ever truly conquer a spirit that refuses to be broken. The moment hung suspended in time. Captain Elena Rodriguez, barely standing, had transformed the entire battlefield with nothing more than her unbreakable spirit. The Vex Marines, who had conquered countless civilizations, now found themselves confronting something they could not understand. Her damaged communication device continued to broadcast, now showing images of human resilience from across different planetary colonies. Farmers protecting their lands, workers rebuilding cities, children finding hope in impossible situations. Each image was a silent testament to human survival. The alien commander took a careful step forward. Something fundamental had changed in their understanding of resistance. Elena's psychological warfare had done what no physical weapon could. It had introduced doubt into their perfect, calculated world. Her body was failing. Internal systems were shutting down. Multiple injuries covered her tactical gear, each wound telling a story of incredible survival. But her eyes remained sharp, filled with an intensity that seemed to burn through the alien technology surrounding her. Fragments of resistance messages continued to drift through her communication. "System, we stand with you," one message whispered. "You are not alone," another encouraged. These were not just words, they were a lifeline, a connection to something greater than the immediate battle. The Vex Marines began to communicate among themselves, their clicking language betraying confusion. Their tactical databases had no protocol for this type of resistance. Elena wasn't just fighting, she was challenging their entire understanding of survival. Memories flooded her mind, her father's lessons about strength, her mother's teachings about resilience, the stories of her grandparents who survived impossible conditions. Each memory became a source of strength, pushing her beyond her physical limitations. The alien landscape of Epsilon Crimson seemed to hold its breath. Distant mountains watched silently, witnesses to this extraordinary moment of human determination. Wind carried the echoes of her defiance across the rocky terrain. Something extraordinary was happening. The Vex Marine's computational systems began to struggle. They were processing emotions they had never experienced before. Uncertainty, curiosity, a strange form of respect. Elena Rodriguez had become more than a soldier. She had become a symbol. Her holographic transmission continued, showing the complexity of human communities. Diverse faces, different ages, various backgrounds, all connected by an invisible thread of hope. The aliens watched, increasingly fascinated by this complex display of human connection. The alien commander's translation device struggled to capture the depth of her communication. It wasn't just translating words anymore, it was trying to understand. An entire philosophy of survival that went beyond technological superiority. Elena's breath came in ragged gasps, but her spirit remained unbroken. Each moment was a battle against her failing body. But she understood something the Vex Marines did not, that true strength comes from within, from the ability to hope when all seems lost. The battlefield grew quiet. The tension was so thick, it could be cut with a knife. Minutes felt like hours. Seconds became an eternity. Everything seemed to depend on this single moment of human resistance. Her communication device crackled one final message. Not a call for help, not a plea for mercy, but a declaration of human spirit. "We survived," the message said, "words we always survive." The Vex Marines took a collective step back. Something had fundamentally changed in their understanding of warfare, of resistance, of survival itself. They were confronting a species that defined strength not by technological superiority, but by the capacity to hope. Elena Rodriguez stood as a living contradiction, critically injured yet undefeated. A single soldier representing an entire species' determination to survive. Her story was no longer just about this battle. It had become a message that would echo across the universe. A message that said, humanity will never surrender. Not today. Not ever. The turning point had arrived. The medical team found her almost impossible to believe. Captain Elena Rodriguez should not have survived. Her body was a map of critical injuries. Plasma burns, multiple fractures, internal bleeding that would have killed any ordinary soldier. But Elena was anything but ordinary. As they transported her through the emergency medical corridors, doctors whispered among themselves. Her vital signs were a miracle. Her survival defied every medical understanding. The scans showed damage that should have ended her life, yet she continued to breathe. News of her resistance spread quickly. From the distant planetary colonies to the most remote human settlements, her story became more than just a military report. It became a legend of human resilience. The Vex Marines' retreat became a turning point in the interstellar conflict. What had begun as a simple military engagement had transformed into something much larger. Elena Rodriguez had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of human determination that challenged everything the aliens understood about warfare. In the recovery, Ward Elena drifted between consciousness and dreams. Memories of her squad, her family, her training played like a fragmented film. She saw James Miller's smile, heard William Thompson's laugh, felt the strength of her parents' teachings. Military historians would later call it the moment that changed everything. Her single act of defiance had exposed a fundamental weakness in the alien strategy. They understood technology, but they could not comprehend the human spirit of resistance. News channels broadcast her story. Interviews with her family revealed a lifetime of preparation. Her father, a construction worker, spoke about teaching her resilience. Her mother, a nurse, talked about her daughter's unwavering courage. Each story added another layer to the growing legend. Children in schools began to learn about Captain Elena Rodriguez. Her image became a symbol of hope, of standing strong when everything seems lost. Schools created programs teaching about her courage, her psychological warfare, her incredible survival. The medical team continued to be amazed. Her recovery defied medical science. Where other soldiers would have succumbed, Elena's body fought back. Her spirit seemed to fuel her physical healing in ways no scientific explanation could fully describe. Resistance movements across human colonies found new strength. In her story, her holographic transmissions became a rallying cry. If she could stand against impossible odds, people would say, so can we. Military strategists studied every moment of her resistance. How could a single soldier create such a profound impact? Her psychological warfare became a new chapter in military training. Soldiers learned that true strength was not just about physical ability, but about mental resilience. Elena's family became ambassadors of hope. They traveled, sharing her story, inspiring others. Her mother would speak about raising a daughter who understood that courage is not about never being afraid, but about fighting despite the fear. The Vex Marines never fully recovered from the encounter. Their computational systems continued to struggle with understanding the complex emotional landscape of human resistance. Elena had introduced a variable they could not calculate. As she slowly recovered, Elena became more than a soldier. She became a living symbol of human potential. Interviews revealed a woman of incredible depth, someone who understood that survival was about more than just staying alive. It was about maintaining hope. Her medical team called her recovery a miracle. Scientists studied her case, trying to understand how she had survived such critical injuries. But Eleanor knew the truth. It wasn't about physical strength. It was about spirit. The legacy of her resistance spread far beyond the battlefield of Epsilon Crimson. She had shown the universe that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology, but in its ability to hope, to fight, to survive against impossible odds. Years later, when people spoke about human resilience, they would remember Captain Elena Rodriguez, a single soldier who changed the course of an interstellar conflict, a woman who proved that the human spirit is the most powerful weapon in the universe. Her story became more than a military report. It became a legend. A legend of courage, a legend of hope, a legend of survival.